Welcome back to Call of the Father. I apologize that it's been a minute since I did an episode. The last one I interviewed my daughter, but I've just got a lot of things going on and I'm not going to quit, but I'll do them when I can and when I can get in the heart space. I still would like to get more consistent, but I'm working with what I can. Today, I don't know where this episode will go or how long it'll be, but there are some things on my mind that kind of wanted to go over and try to paint a little picture of just some ideas that I have in my head. It started with, well, let me go back. Like lately I've said, I know during the course of doing this podcast, I've said some things along the way about my ex, that she had narcissistic tendencies and that I was codependent and trying to be accountable for my part in things, because we always have a part, and I definitely can see mine, but I want to frame some of this for you the way that it was going through my head the last couple days. When early after I started going through my divorce, I had a good friend, I was talking to several friends that were just helping me through things, just helping me keep my head straight, helping me understand what happened and that, I didn't deserve that or whatever. And at that time, that's probably what I needed. I needed the validation. I really believe, I think I've said it on here, that you can't jump from wounded to healed. You're not going to be healed by next Tuesday. And there's a process. And part of that, to really heal and grow and to just reach your higher self, it just doesn't happen in one fell swoop. Basically, I really believe when you come from trauma and you have these wounds, you're very ego-based, as I heard Lisa Romano saying on a live stream today. Your thoughts, everything that you are is just centered in your ego. And the ego gets a bad rap. Ego isn't all negative in this perspective. Basically, it's there to protect you. And you learn the mechanisms that you learned to protect yourself as you went through life. You learn coping mechanisms, and as you get older, some of those defense mechanisms just don't serve you anymore, but you're still programmed to keep using them. So really, in the beginning of a healing journey, you have to validate the wounds. You have to validate the feelings, validate the hurt, just the pain. And before you do that, you can't come to a point of accountability without being there first. It's a process. So early in my divorce process, I had one friend I was talking to one time, and I think he saw where I was going, maybe. I think maybe that he saw that I wanted to be accountable. I wanted to do certain things certain ways, and I think that he appreciated that. But he said something to me one day that I never forgot it, and I did not agree at the time. He said, one day you're going to realize that you never really loved her. That was hard to listen to at the time. I didn't discount him. I didn't tell him, you're wrong. But in my mind, I just spent a couple days thinking about that. And I was like, thinking, that's not right. I did love her. I did everything for her. I did all these things for her. I self-sacrificed to try to please her. And all these things that I did, that in my mind at the time, that was love. And I was thinking, he just doesn't understand the situation. He wasn't there. He wasn't that close. But I never forgot what he said. And I'm going to, just a little rabbit trail here, but it's related. during the course of my life, and when I was very in codependent programming and people pleasing and different things, I just remember several times where situations with people, and usually people I didn't know, but their codependency radar was freaking turned on. They saw it and they weren't buying my shit. And they would react. They'd react to me. And in my mind, there was no explanation for it. It was so weird, and it was offensive to me because I'm just this nice guy. And I really think these people at times, they sensed that codependency, that people pleasing. They sensed the manipulation in it, and they reacted. And there's no way in my wounded self, in my programming at that time, that I could understand their side of it, if you will. But now, with all of the work that I've done and the healing and the growth, like, I look back and it's like almost just kind of funny to me. I'm like, wow, like they just, like I said, they were not buying my shit, and they were not going to put up with that manipulation, no matter how beautiful I tried to paint it into the picture. They were calling bullshit on it. Now, there have been a lot of people in my life that did buy into that manipulation. And I hope you're getting the point that this people-pleasing, this Mr. Nice Guy, self-sacrifice, all this stuff, it's a manipulation because of abandonment wounds, abandonment trauma. It's if I can do everything for you, if I can show up for you, then you'll be obligated to be attached to me and never leave. And so then to tie this back to what my friend said, he said, one day you're going to realize at some point here that you never really loved her. And I just could not comprehend that at that time. Now I see it, and not only do I understand what he was saying, he was right. I look back, and what I had to offer her was never really love. You see, nobody in my growing up, nobody modeled love for me, real love, and I didn't know what that looked like. And there's no way I could show up and give real love. There's no way I could do that. And as long as I was not congruent with my higher self, as long as I needed validation from outside of myself, there's no way I was ever going to be capable of loving someone else. As long as I could not accept myself, be in full acceptance of myself, I could never give what I believe now is true love to anybody else. And so, to frame this even a little more, I guess I look at it and I'm like, I think of her now, and don't get me wrong, like there's a lot of water is floated under that bridge, and there's no going back. It was a learning point in life, and it was a traumatic experience, and it's something that it woke me up a little bit. It put me on a course to heal, and I'm thankful for that. And in a lot of ways, like when you talk about narcissistic abuse, narcissism, and when you go from that angle, and I'm looking at it that I was abused in that situation, you can't see the truth then. And I think of her, and I think that, she was wounded too. And I've discussed that a little bit. She had her own wounds. And I'm at a point now where there were points along this journey where I didn't want to focus on any of the good that ever was there in that relationship. I only, like, I guess that'd be more pain. And even though I was focusing on what the pain was, which was the betrayal and different things, I think that I couldn't see a lot of things. And I think that there was a lot of good there in some ways. And when I talk about that I was unable to connect with her, it's not that, you know, there's just a lot of, I heard Lisa Romano say it, I think today or yesterday also, and a codependent is not a good communicator. That's what she said. And I was listening to that and I was totally agreeing, and it tied into this because I really believed I was good at communicating, because I was going to talk, but I was coming from a point of view of wanting her to see my point of view, and somehow I could convince her to see my point of view. Well, I don't know that it was ever that necessarily. Maybe she couldn't, maybe she could. I guess just to interlace this in it, that, you know, when you've gone through a lot of healing, I feel like I'm at a point where it's harder to focus on the bad. It's harder to focus on the trauma anymore. It's harder to focus on what trauma I endured and how she did me wrong, because I'm too busy focusing on myself. And the ultimate thing for me is just ultra accountability. I really want to be accountable for myself. And I think that she probably did want to connect, and there's evidence of that in some things. She wanted to connect, but in some ways, deep down, she wasn't buying my shit either. She wasn't going to buy the manipulation. As long as I was unable to connect with her on a even ground, and as long as I was trying to manipulate the situation, because my fear of abandonment trauma and these things, then I think the first statement is true. Yes, she was not able to connect with me. I couldn't connect with her. She wasn't going to engage in that in the middle of bullshit. Now, don't get me wrong. She's got her own trauma, and that's where I'm at now. You know, like, I really pray and hope for her to heal, and our perception creates our reality. And I've seen that more and more, and I've discussed it in this podcast, where when my energy changed toward her, when I realized I was no longer bitter, all of the energy I got back from her changed as well. There's a different dynamic there. And again, it doesn't mean we can't go back, but we can sure move forward and not have hard feelings, and have, I believe there's a love vibration there, and I wish the best for her. And in some ways, it's sad to me to think about the way that I did show up. Because, yeah, she had trauma too. And she had needs that she wanted to get met too. And I don't know what a perfect scenario would have looked like. Well, and when I say perfect scenario, I don't know what it would look like if I came into that more healthy, or was able to reach a healthy state, a healed state, and show her real love. I don't know what that would have looked like. If that would have helped her to heal, helped her to come out of some of her defense mechanisms. I really believe that a lot of the narcissistic traits are defense mechanisms, because she's got a wounded inner child and ego constructs as well. I've said before, I think that for a narcissist, the reason that they say that it's really hard for, the reason in my head, the reason I attribute to why it is really hard for a narcissist to ever heal or grow is because they can't face the pain of facing themselves. They understand that there's pain, but they have a very low spiritual pain tolerance. And they're just not able to open that first door of the hallway. They just can't bring themselves to do it. So instead, their defense mechanisms are blame and different things. Does it make her any different than me? Here's where I'm going to go to the next level of accountability and reframing for myself. Now I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, maybe I don't want to call her a narcissist. Like I said, it's just a label, and it's a label for a set of traits. And a lot of times you identify a couple narcissistic traits, and you identify A, B, and C, and you can start to make pretty accurate guesses that you'll see D, E, F, and G if you look for them. Well, that's fairly true, but again, our perception creates our reality. Our energy creates our reality. And looking back from a little bit more healed and accountable point of view, maybe I was the predator. Maybe I was the unconscious predator coming from my wounded self and my fear of abandonment and trying to pray out somebody who I felt would pretend to be able to meet my needs. And I knew subconsciously and deep down that they wouldn't be able to, and that eventually they'd abandon me. I manifested that. I brought it about. I probably treated her that way. There's so many things about a person with abandonment trauma and the fear of abandonment. You're just going to keep bringing it back because you'll see what you look for. You're going to see what you look for. When I was younger, I used to really get a kick out of there's this saying, I'll believe it when I see it. The old saying, I'll believe it when I see it. You've probably heard it 100 times, people say it. And I used to really get a kick out of saying it backwards on purpose. I'd say, I'll see it when I believe it. And my thoughts then were, well, if I see it when I believe it, then I got to believe it before I'm going to see it. And I don't believe it, so I'm never going to see it. And what's so funny to me now is how true that statement is. I will see it when I believe it, and I have the power and ability to change my mind of what I believe. And I've done that in a lot of areas, and I've started to see things that I didn't used to believe I'd ever see. Now I'm believing some things and I'm seeing them. And this healing and growth journey is just amazing. But looking back, like I was saying, maybe I was the predator seeking out the prey of somebody who could at least pretend that they could meet my needs and not abandon me. And I was willing to sacrifice, and it was very manipulative. It wasn't real. What I gave was not real. And it came from a selfish motivation. I've talked in this podcast before also about intentions of the heart. I did an episode, Intentions of the Heart versus Integrity. And from that point of view that I came into that relationship, I mean, it marks all the boxes of integrity. What I would do, I was a stand-up guy. I was going to be there for her, be there for my family, do everything for them. But if you want to dissect it and get real, which I do, from the bottom depths of the intentions of my heart, it was not pure and it was not real. And I really believe that she sensed that. And then the writing was on the wall. And when I became unsatisfied in my heart because my manipulation wasn't working and I wasn't getting what I wanted, and I still feared that abandonment, and when I just wasn't happy, and I believe my energy toward her changed, she did what she felt she had to do to protect herself. It's probably scary deep down. If she was able to open up and be real like this, probably was pretty scary. And yeah, she was looking for a plan B, but how fair is it for me to blame it all on her? And how fair is it? Like, I actually believe now it's really sad that the only way she could get out of that, I wanted out, and I believed in my religious perspective at the time that the only way out of a marriage was either one of us dies or unfaithfulness. And in a lot of ways, it's just really sad to me now to think that in order for that to end and it was coming to a head, it had to be painted in a way that it was, on paper, it looks like it's all her fault. And I just send out energy to her and say, thank you, I'm sorry, and I hope that, I just really pray and hope for healing for her too. And anyway, I guess that's probably enough for today, but I wanted to get those thoughts and feelings out and off my heart, and I just thank you for listening. Keep coming back. Please tell friends about it. I just want, if you think somebody will benefit, please tell them. I just want to help people. I just want my stories to encourage people that they can heal. I'm telling you, if I can freaking do this, promise anybody could. And I just hope to inspire people to find your healing, find your truth, because truth is what you're going to believe in. And I prayed for it in my life. I prayed to find truth, even if it challenged everything I believed in. I just wanted to know the truth. And I've carried a lot of cognitive dissonance throughout my life where my belief systems didn't line up with what I just felt innately in my heart. And I encourage you to look for that too. Feel your body, feel your heart, feel what just feels right, and pray for truth or seek it, whatever you believe in. Really doesn't matter. But thank you for listening, and I'll try to put another one out as soon as I can. Have a great day.